lig sa unsay gihatag sa teacher niyo da sa klase. Because like I said, very often, time and time again, what you see in the class is only the tip of the iceberg. So today we'll be talking again about advanced eloquent. Can anyone explain to me what is eloquent? Unsa gani ng eloquent sa Laravel? Hmm? Mingaw man dayon? Unsa ng eloquent in Laravel? Unsa na Angel? Kamo nga dugay na mong gamit-gamit og eloquent. Di mo ka explain og unsa ng eloquent. Unsa ng eloquent, Alvin? Crud ha? Okay, ano na mga answer? La, according to Milko, Laravel includes eloquent. Yes, it's already included in Laravel. It's a feature in Laravel. It's an object-oriented object relational mapper or ORM. I hope kasabot kag unsa na ORM ha. That makes it enjoyable to interact with database. So basically the ORM of Laravel is eloquent, and an ORM is just a set of programs that enable us to interact with the database in object-oriented paradigm. It's just shifting the database data and blending it with object-oriented programming so that you can interact with your database in object-oriented mode or in object-oriented approach. So you will be able to, when you say interact, retrieve data, insert, update, delete data, CRUD ka ng giingon ni Alvin. But it ang key feature na it's CRUD. It allows CRUD in a way nga object-oriented. O na si ORM. And naay mga ORM daghan, di lang kay eloquent lang. No? But ang ORM lang sa Laravel, mo na si eloquent. And today we are going to take a look at some of the more advanced features. Well, dili kayo advanced. Wala lang na to kayo gamita kay mura og kanang naay wala pa siguro moabot sa wala pa moabot ang mga situations nga magkinahanglan ta mo gamit or naatay laing approach nga nasolbad na atong problem. And with the advanced stuff with Eloquent, we are going to take a look at the relational side of Eloquent. Now we know in our database we have relations. We have the one-to-one relationship. We have the one-to-many relationship, and we have also the many-to-many relationship. Now we already know that in a one-to-one relationship, that is one item in one record in a table refers will be connected to another record in a table one to one. Isa. Kasi man, for example, if you are going to define a user, naman tayo na may user daan si Laravel, di ba? Punan na lang na mo og profile nga table. So that would be a one-to-one relationship. Si user nga record will point to one profile nga record kay di man pod angayan nga usa ka user duha ka book profile, di ba? Pwede ra gud pod nga ang imong data, ang imong table profile dili nang ka mahimog table nga profile niya katong mga fields dito sa table nga profile unta i-add ra nimo dito sa user. But sometimes it's also a good idea to separate that kay aron mas granular ang imuhang design, imong structure mas granular meaning mas gagmay ang imuhang mga pieces mas nayon ra i-maintain, ba? So, una siya one-to-one relationship, di ba? And one-to-many is mo pinaka sana pinaka common nga relationship. And then many-to-many also wherein na kay additional table sa tunga nga mo i-connect nilang duha. It's called the join table. In some instances, it is also called as pivot table. So, ano siya itong tanawon? So, may mga pwede na itong buhaton sa Eloquent nga murag pa nagsara or wa kita kasuway nga pwede di ay. Okay? Well, kibaw na ta unsaon ang relationship dito sa ato ang model. So I have here a new Laravel application with kining user katoraning kuan boilerplate nga user. Then I added the following post. So ako na lang natin rin ikuan. Ano naman ay dire sa database? It's blog. And let's see, go to the designer para makita na itong padaplin na ito ng mga di na ito kinanglanon. Ini si migrations. Okay. Password resets pod. Alright, so we have here sa mukha na hindi mo kuyog eh. Oh, mabilin. Basta paspason. Post. Di pa dahil si failed jobs. May labot ni. Okay. So we have our user. Again, agator ng normal nga user. Si user kay vlog man mag-post. Maghimog post. Nya, ang kada post will belong to a category. Pero, many-to-many relationship ang category. That is why, si category o si post na ay category post nga kanang pivot table or join table. So that in-create nimo og post, it can be given several categories. And every single category can be also related to several posts. This is a many-to-many relationship. On the other hand, si blocks is a one-to-one relationship with post. A one-to-one, one-to-many relationship with post. Ang usa ka post posible nga daghan og blocks. Gi-separate lang nako ang usa ka blog. Usa ka blog na kay blocks diha. So block number 1 maybe chapter 1, then chapter 2 blocks na siya. Ang content ra gud sa block kay text ra gud pod nya nasa order o ikapila siya sa post. So primero siya, ikaduha, ikatulo. Ya mo na siya basihanan sa pag-display niya dito sa blog. And also, many-to-many relationship between user and post. Unta, butangan ta na ko og profile diri para natay one-to-one relationship, but I think it's already a very simple thing for you at this point. So, we'll just talk about the how we make relationship within the Eloquent. Of course, there's already a relationship within the database itself. But in our Eloquent, in our ORM, basically, when we create a model, wala pa man ay sulod ng model ana, di ba? So for example, if you look at post, more na siya dagway ni post, di ba? Wala na siya sulod pa. One thing in 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 a model is you remember the mass assignment uh, feature nga kung mag-create ka kung ato na ka sa controller mag-create ka pananglitan og usa ka post, you can create in a way that you do mass assignment. So wala pa man tay controller tingali ani ana ade. So for example, as a post controller somewhere, we're going to have here a function store. Mag-store na ka, diba? We have here a request that contains your input, uh, and maybe we can have the kuan diba mo validate mo tani no, and in the validation pa by the way yung ito sulod sa post na to, post is user ID title tags. So we have user ID has to be required and number or numeric, and also sunod si title si tags. Si title is required and string. Yan si tags dili lang required. Okay, pwede ra makadimubutang og tag pero string siya. That's how you validate, no? But when you create, remember, you'd say post is equal to, and then you call in upon the post, and then create method. And here, you just add an array. And the array is going to be a name value pair of the field, and then the value that you put inside that field. This is the mass assignment. What unsa man dayon ta og dili pa mass assignment, unsa man dayon to pag create og post. Ato sa nito son. You'd say user ID, that would be request. Diyan ka nang di man ka pwede makainga nag-user underscore. Pwede day. Underscore man. Kung dash pa na, di pwede. Title it tags. Munta na siya na. Title is request. Title and tags. Ito na. This is mass assignment, di ba? Ni-import. This is creation using mass assignment. Now, of course, this is going to generate an error. Yan ang mag-error man eh. Because, ang atong post nga model, wala ka naghatag og unsay imong gi-allow for mass assignment. Kung saan mo mag-allow, remember? It was using the protected. Kaya ba na mo ani? Fillable ang atong butangan, and in here you'll just define the fields that you allow for mass assignment. Og dili nimo ibutang diri dili ma-appeal sa mass assignment. That's why if we are going to say just user ID here and title, kung ana ra bisan pa og ibutangan nato na diha og tags, dili na siya ma-appeal og insert si tags kay wala man ma-appeal sa mass assignment. Okay? I very often run across this particular problem many times. Kadaghanan na ako mahitabo nga. Inig-save na ko, okay, save. Na-save siya. Pero pagbalik pa dahil, pagtanaw pa rin ako sa database, ito sa record, na ay field nga walay sulod. And okay siya nga walay sulod kay because sa design po sa database, nalabol man siya. Pero diha unta to'y sulod pag save na ko. Pero wala siya na save dito. Nga naman ka to? That's because, although naa siya diri sa create nga method, wala siya ma-appeal diri sa fillable. Okay? Wala siya ma-appeal sa fillable, and if di siya ma-appeal sa fillable, dili siya ma-appeal sa mass assignment. Ay shortcut ani. Kung gusto ka nga mas assignable tanang fields, tanan, pwede ka mag-shortcut. Ano you can just simply, instead of saying protected fillable, you'll say protected and then guarded bali ni sa fillable. Ug mubutang ka guarded, dili nimo i-allow panlilitan si user ID. Bali na sa meaning og na kay guarded si user ID, dili ni siya ma-appeal sa mass assignment. Bali na siya. Sa to pa, kung moyon ka guarded unja blanco nga array, dili guarded tanan. In this case, you can now do mass assignments for all of the three fields that you added here. Okay? Muna siya. Uh, kung dili ka mag-mass assignment, sa may dagway ato, may nga na, ka na, oh. That's how you do it. You say, post equals to new post. Mag-create kang new post. Then, post user ID is equal to request user ID. Then, post title is equal to request title. And finally, post tags is equal to request tags. And then, post save. Muna siya ay normal way of setting up a new record. Normal way na siya. Kining babaw mo na siya ang mass assignment. But again, this one will work even if you have not defined any protected fillable or protected guarded here, because this is one by one. This is not mass assignment. But if you do mass assignment, you have to either define a fillable or define guarded nga mo oray dili ma-appeal sa mass assignment. Ang katupong sa fillable mo, ang naibutang mo po mo po ma-appeal sa mass assignment. Ang guarded ang mga dili ma-appeal sa mass assignment. So you should put either guarded or fillable, dili both. Okay? So in this case, guarded wala. So maka mass assign ka sa tanan. And this would be fine right here. Okay? Are you still there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Now, let's talk about another thing. For the, kung ano po, arita balik sa model. When you do define relationship, if you remembered, since we are following, since I am generating the models and the migrations through CLI, ma-follow automatically follow na to ang naming convention sa kanang na ay Laravel. And when you follow naming conventions, na ay daghang shortcut nga mahitabo nga pwede nimong buhaton when you write your code. One example for this is kanang mag-define ka og relationship. When you define a relationship, we know that post is related to user, di ba? And public function such that user is the owner of a post. So that when you say this, okay ba naman di ba? This belongs to, and then app models user. Now, what if wala taning follow sa convention? Unsa man nga convention ang gisgutan ani? In this case, the convention that is followed here is that ang foreign key sa user diri sa post is user underscore ID. That is a convention. What if wala na to user underscore ID ang field na to diha? What if, what if nga na sa pagkasuwat? User ID. Nga na. What if nga na to na pagkasuwat? Dili user underscore ID. Wa na taning follow sa convention na. If that's the case, this will no longer work. Okay? Because this is a shortcut. And this shortcut only works when you follow the convention. Okay? So if we take a look at the posts, create post table, we follow the we,
Remote mo share screen.
ah, sa to?
Wala naka-share screen.
Sobre.
Wala naka-share.
Okay. Balik, balik. So, ngani, this is how you write your method to perform the kanang na ay sana relation sa or sa ato sa eloquent. Although na relation sa table, dito man to sa database nga rules. Ang rules diri sa atong application mismo, sa atong back-end level, sa application level, ari na to na i-define diri sa atong ORM, diri sa model. And this is how you write it. And this only works well, this is a shortcut. This particular kanang na ay statement is a shortcut and it is only possible to work, it only worked nga gitagaan kag shortcut because we followed the convention. And the convention that I'm following here is the user underscore ID naming convention of the foreign key for pointing to the user table as we defined it here in our create post table migration. Now, what if wala to nagingana? What if ato ra nagingalan og user ID nga dili and user underscore ID? If that's the case, wala na taning follow sa convention sa Laravel. And if that's the case, this particular statement will no longer work for the purposes of connecting your user to your post. Does it mean nga dili ka pwede mo go away with the convention of Laravel? No. Because og mo follow ka convention, mas mubo ang imong code. Og di ka mo follow convention, pwede ra gyapon but you have to fully define your code here. And all you have to do to fully define your code here in this case that we are not following the convention is by adding the connection between the two tables. And that is, in this case, as you can see, if you add a comma and then you'll be given this guide in IntelliSense. Nga, related, ang unang sunod niyo may butang nimo is ang foreign key. And then ang owner key. Unsa may foreign key atong gigamit karon? Since we changed this to user nga walay underscore ID, we should say user ID. And then, next is ang owner key, which is ID. This ID is the primary key of users. And this user ID is the foreign key that we have here in the post, which is here. So, tungod kay wa taning follow sa convention mo nang kinahanglan ta mo define og unsa nga field sila nakakonekta. Pero kung ning sunod ta sa convention, sila Laravel mo assume nga kini connected ani using the name of the table which is user underscore DID. Okay? So muna siya ay how you write a relational kung wala ka mo follow sa convention. But again, why should you not follow convention? Unsa man nga situation nga wala ka naka-follow sa convention? If for example, you will be Laravelizing an existing database. I hope nakasabot mo sa term Laravelizing. Kung dili ni siya Laravel sa una, unya imuhang himuong Laravel, of course, nanan sa database daan. And that database is not following the Laravel convention, then mo na may tabo. Okay? You get the point? Guys? Of course, I'm going to remove this and turn this back into the conventional, which is that. Okay. Sa other side, si user, di ba? So if I open user, si user doon ay daghang post. So now we can just add here, public, and you know this already. Function, posts, by the way, main, one to many. So, si user na ay daghang post. So, by convention, kanang plural na siya. And then, ang kalahian sa kwan guys, plural kung plural siya, posts, plural ang form, ang iyahang i-return expected array, array of objects. Kung singular siya, pareha aning post is just a user because this belongs to, that's one. And this is a single object. Same thing kung one-to-one pa ning relationship nato ni post o ni user, kini si user dire. Kung one-to-one pa ni ha, unsa man nato ni, this has one. Has one app models post. Now, sa database, wala kay utrohon ana. Like that. And this has one method returns only one object. But eh, for this purpose, this is a one-to-many man has many, same thing, pero has many na instead of has one, this will return an array or a collection at that. Kung daghan gani collection, which is either an array or a list, depende sa imong treatment. Muna na kanindot sa kanang na Laravel collection kay di ka ma-limited. Although akong style, akong ganahan nga style pag manipulate sa data nga ma-return kung dinaghan mura og kanang na ay array usahay. Most of the time I'm approaching the collection as a list. That's why for each akong gamiton, di ba, kasagaran for each. Okay? So nga na siya nasa Picas. Right? Now, the most important thing here nga akong gustong ipasupot ron is kining many to many. Okay? Let's take a look at the database structure again. It is the relationship between post and category. Okay? Category posts is not really a model here. What we have a model for a post, that's one thing, and a model for a category. By the way, ganihang akong kuan ganiha kay si user many to many relationship with post, naa po na same thing ni post many to many relationship with blocks. But for post and categories, si post pwede daghang category, si categories daghan na siya og posts. That's why natay pivot table or join table nga naas to nga. And we should really not going to look, no, saan mo ko istoryahan eh. We should not really look at the relationship between posts and category posts, nor the relationship between categories and category posts, because that's not a real relationship. The real relationship is posts and categories, which is many to many. We can approach this in a way nga posts has many category posts and categories has many category posts as well. And that's how we have been doing in the past. That's how I demonstrated to you our examples using that approach, but that's not the correct thinking. Man good, diba? We should approach this in a way nga si post has many categories. So, mo na siya atong tan-awon karon. Unsa man nato na pag-implement? We have Laravel provides a very very good way of implementing many to many relationship nga kana bang intuitive, kana sakto sa panghuna-huna. Dili pareha atong style sa una nga ato ang ipaagi si post nga daghang category post niya, si categories daghang category post. That should not be. Yangat man ko. So, we can actually do has many through in Laravel, in Eloquent at that. Saan itong kung ano ni? Akong sample code. All right. So for the case of posts and categories, let's take a look at post here. Si post na ni siya ay, remember, ang mindset, si post, daghan o categories. So you should write it like public function, categories. Diba? And this should return a collection, not a single object. Diba? Muna siya. So how do you write this? You can say this belongs to many. This belongs to many models category. Okay? Saan na eh? Just like that. Again, this is very short. Why? Because we are following convention. On the other side, sa category, here, diba si category daghan ng posts. So, public function posts. Lah. O, categories diyan. Dali, posts. Si category daghan ng post, then you say, this belongs to many app models post. Just like that. Yan na. Now, I say, nawagway. One very important and crucial convention that is followed here para ma-work ni siya nga magic. Murag magic mo ni nga nagkasumpay si posts o si categories. Para ma-work ni sila is that your pivot table or your join table has to have the same name as the two tables separated by underscore in alphabetical order. Remember that the two elements here or the two entities here is post and category. By convention, una si category kay si sunod si post. So that's why ang ngan sa ako ang table is category underscore post. Okay? Muna siya ay reason. Yeah. And ala, patay sayop mang daygan ini. Kaya nung na may S na si post, murang mo atong suwayan kuno be. So let's go to Tinker. And this is not going to work. Let's create, let's have one post, P1. That is going to be a post for number 1. So we get that post. Let's see if we can have P1. Try to see the user of P1. And, Allah, anong wala mo na sa user? Wala mo work ang atong user belongs to app models. User ID nga 4. Ay sus, ginoo ko. Ganihar akong sinuwat wa man day kumamao. Dapat ipang return man na siya. It should be returned. So, kani return. Si user return. Wala ipang return. My goodness. My goodness gracious. So again, P1 is the first post. And if we do P1 user, we get that user ID with ID 4 because si P1 has a user ID of 4. which means that this particular post is written by this particular user. That's fine. But if we go P1 and say categories, sino na tayo problema. Ang sisulti niya, blog.category post doesn't exist. Tanaw yung pangita, category underscore post. Diba? Sayop ang akong gihimo manggod kay. Sa gihimo mo na ko, category posts with S. And that's the problem there is in the migration. So if I go category posts, kini siyang may problema. That we created that with an S here. No? I should not have an S in there. And so what I can do is redo the migration. Refresh with seeding. Uy. Ano may error ako ang seed. Category post does not exist na lagi sa category post seeder. Wala na ko dili na ako ipakita ninyo ako ang kuan ha. Kanang na ay sana seeds of factory kay mao naman man. So the problem here is kuan magod basta mogamit na ka og model di man gud by convention or by actual thinking dili jud unta model ni si category post. Remember, it is only a join table. Pero ako lang gihimuan og model kaya ron maka-factory ko niya. So ang problema ni kay kung mag-model ka category post, iyahan nang i-assume nga iyahang table name is category posts. Okay? So all you have to do, this is now not following convention kay again di man lagi jud unta na sa model. So I'll just go to the category post nga model, which is this one, and say that the table for this is actually category underscore post nga walay S. Yung mo naman na siya, di ba? And this is public. Like that. So atong gingnan nga, ang table name ani niya nga model, dili category posts, kundi category post nga walay S. Okay? So do this again. And there we go. So ni-work na siya. Now, let's go inside through Tinker. Again, we get our first post, finding number 1. And we try to see P1 and categories. Now we get the list of categories, which in this case is just 1. Usaray ang category. So let's take a look at this. The ID of the post is 1. So if we are going to take a look at our database and go into our category posts, what the? I don't care. Di ko mag-save. If we go to our category post and we search for all atong pangitaon lang search, we'll search for one with a post ID of 1. Okay. Usara sad siya, di ba? It's only that category number 5, which is this one. Usara ka category ang nabutang para sa post number 1. So if we are going to add another one, let's say we insert post for post number 1, we'll add category number 4, musical, and go. So now we go back to this same thing. We say P1 categories. We now have Wa nalay gyapon. Ay, di mo gud siya ma-update ning kuan oy kanang kanang thinker. Di na pud ka mo type. Categorist. Lah, ano ni? Unsa day pira day na yabag. So there, we now have two. Na si sports, na po si musical. Okay? Sumuna siya sa, sa to? Relation. Sa many to many. How about we go on the other direction. So we'll have a category. Category number one. So we have category find one. That's C1. If we say C1, uh, posts, ang mga post nga ning belong sa category nga horror, we have the following. Pila na kabuok? Daghan. Daghan ang horror. Alright? Okay. Tuma na siya guys. Uh, question so far. Wala question guys? By the way, na ba yung record? Kalimot mo na ko og ingon og pag-record eh. Nindot ka og nirecordan na Ed. Oh, nakunoy ka Ed. Galing kayo mabot na po nagpila ka gig ron. Dagko kayo. So now we can do the first category of P, di ba si P, kay duha man nakakategory, no? P categories. And then you say first. And that's the first category of P. And you can even do dito sa code na gyud bitaw. P categories first, and you just try to get the category name. And we get, oy. Di lagi P1, bali balulog eh. Pira. Categories first. Then we just get the category name and we receive musical. Okay? So, una siya. Nindot kayo. Now, we can push further with the relationship and with na kanang ay filtering based on relational. Kasuhay na po na tana sa una, pero naapoy nindot nga paagi sa pagbuhat ana. For example, you are going to get the book from a particular user nga ang kanang na ay title nga ni. Remember, the user, atin pa, usaram na ka-level, no? Yeah, you're going to get the user, the user, ang user tong kaon nga naghimo nakasuwat og book nga ngani og title. Let's take a look at one title. Aron makita nato kinsa nang a user ba. Let's take a look at the post here. And we have this title nga cum rem dicta. Okay. Paano man mga algorithm ipso man eh. Okay, let's try to do that. Again, the target is to get the name of the author of the book. Starting sa author nga, kay pwede mo kamo ingon og post, find, post, where, title, and then kato, and then we say author, user, ano no, may kag first, sige, pangita nimo ang post una, and then from there you can get the user, and you get the user, diba? But there are times, there are situations, and I have experienced this a lot. There are situations nga you want to get the user, but not based on the post, because this particular uh, statement here, we are basing our base table is the post. What if we want our base table to be user? So in this case, you are going to say user, yun, no? So let's say user, ano ka, and then kuhaon mo ang unang user, nya tan-aw mo og sa na ang mga libro, tama na. Naglibog na mo ko sa mga kagalingon. Kasi kung ano to si unang user. Unya, tanaw na to, i-display na to ang mga libro niya nga horror. So, yan na lang, say, para mas simple. Then we say, posts, libro na yun. Yang mga blog, di ba? You're trying to get the user here, nga, ID number one. And then you're trying to get the posts of that particular user. And then, pwede na po na nimo i-filter out na naman kadihay posts, di ba? You can filter out using where. Pwede ka mag-where. And this time the where pertains to the posts. Okay? So, you say where, inon talang category ID uh, 2. And we're trying to get error eh. Oh, lagi. Pastilan, tani. Ano, di man sa kaila sa user, na kaila man sa mga posts ganiha. Tralala eh. Yun na lang, ito na lang copy nga. Mawagi pa man jud og app models user. Fine. Lah, di gyapon lagi. Where clause unknown column. Ah, basig ipa-specify yun niyang, de? What's wrong with this? Where category andi? Ang error niya kay column not found, unknown column, category underscore ID in where clause. Ay, naunsa ba de? Common dyan na category ID kay nag-mini to mini man na siya. Pastilan, naman ta kahimo na day. Diyan mo dyan category ID sa post, di ba? Di mo una itong example. Asa mo dito tanaw ni kay? Na, naguba naman dito na eh. Post. Blocks dito, no? Kay morag mo ay sunod ni post. Na. So mukuha tag post. Di mo gubuta maka-wear sa block. Sigod kay ang suod sa blocks kay content naman jud ditso. Gusto nta ko makahatag ko yung example ba nga kanang naay multi-level ang selection niya. Mag-wear ka, mag-filter ka ato sa lower level nga sa imuhang kuan table, which in this case supposedly user sunod na kay post sunod na category post. Category post na itong igon. Kiling kay wa manggoy kuan. Unsa na tanong busot? Posts. Okay. So let's try this. Instead nga mo yung tao where diha post. Si post naman na siya ay categories, di ba? Lower level budget, one level deeper. Usa pa ka mo yung where category ID is 1. And then we get undefined method categories. Many to many no siya, no? Has many. Unsa? Bad call with message. Call to undefined method has many categories sa relations. Okay, relations na maguna siya dani. Hindi na pwede. Lahom na kayo. Or pwede rin dyan na siya guys kung dili pa lang ni siya many to many. So, ang ako mo kung kini siya mo unta dili unta many to many ba. Unsa man na to pag filter ning post, ha? Ay, tags. Wala ang pusod ang tags. Sige, tags na lang. Where tags inunta lang og um, news. Okay? And we'll try to get. So, walay sulod. Sige. Walay sulod. Let's try to manipulate na lang our data sa atong post. And let's give a tag for this one. Ito ano yung tangan tag nga news. Okay. And one more. Kanala. Sorry, atong expectation. Sige. And there you go. So we get the post nga doon ay tag. And this post is taken out from a user with ID number 1. Si user nga ID number 1, possibly daghan siya kayong post. Pero out of all the posts of user number 1, ato ron filter out katong dunay tag nga news. And again, the where could be any where clause that you can think of. Unfortunately, mga good pod, murag duha ra mga good po post ni user 1 no, kanira o kani atulo day. tulo day. So, kulpa, ting, panitan kini og ato ning news pod. Then we could assume we'll be having two. Yeah, there we go. So we have two. Okay, so the where clause is being done on the lower level of the table structure. Okay, so that's one thing. Napadi ko yung nakalimutan ba? Ang sarap to ha? Ah, yeah. Eager loading. One very important thing that I would like to share to you today is eager loading. Now, why do we need eager loading? When you say eager loading, my God, we are going to load the data right there and then. In Laravel, ang iyang default is lazy loading. I-load lang niya when the time nga gamito niya. What do I mean by this? If we are going to get P2, so that is post with ID number 2. So it's loading that data from the database. Ning select statement na siya padong sa database para makuha nimo ning ID nga 2, user ID nga 6, kining title og test and so on, all that. Now, get it did not get the categories for that. When you by the time you say P2 categories, that's the time nga iyan na pong gibasa, nag-issue na po siya og select statement para makuha niya ang mga categories nga na-assign ani nga post. And as you can see here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 categories. That's lazy loading. But what if you want sometimes you need to eager load your data. And to do that, you can use the with method. So, for example, atong i-eager load ang iyang categories. Then you could say P3, si P3 na punta ron. Say post, find 3, yun kag with categories. P3. We say get. So you see, when the value, kada sa akin, nawag mo sa akin. Okay, sige. So here, with just one statement, gikuha niya una ang post and then gi-appeal niya kuha pod ang mga categories. Daghan kay categories ni si kuha, no? Like if we are going to get the user 4, so U4, we say user find C4. Usara na ka user, di ba? Then you can also say with posts. And so si user, ito kinababuan. So this is uh, user number, ano user ID 6 man siya? Ikuha ta ng user. Nanon. Let's say U5 is equal to user find 5. Say with posts. Ano, appeal man to ng user ha? Yung kay 5. Si user 5 ron ta na. Matanan naman siya guys. Mo ano mahinungdan ang find 5. Kay tanan naman kay first man na. Ang first kay ID 1. Ako ani. Mo day. Kinahanglan na gyud mag-where day. So we should rewrite this as user with um, posts. Then we just give it a where ID of say 5 and get. So this time wrong. So user with posts where ID 5. We filter the users with having the ID of 5, and that is why we have this user model having the ID of 5, si Perry Henny. But because of the with posts, these are all the posts of user 5. As you can see here, this is a post with ID 4 and this user ID is 5. The next post is user with ID 7 is still user ID 5. So all the posts of user ID 5 is included in that. This is what we call eager loading. Now, asa man ni siya importante? When, for example, you are going to list the users and the number of posts niya. You have a table here, list of users, and then pila ka buk posts niya. Then you would be tempted to say, get all the users, and then from each user you are going to simply call posts count. Okay, pwede mo kami nga nag-user, palitan kuha kag usa ka user 1. This is user find 1. That's how you get one user, di ba? When you say user 1 posts and count, you get 3. Okay? But this, if you are going to do this, when you display mangod sa imuhang kuan, sa imuhang table, di ba kay mag-loop man ka? And every time you loop, you will be calling posts count. And every time you do that, it's going to execute another select statement and another select statement. So if you have 100 users, the select statement, there are 100 select statements to get the count. Get the point? But if you eager load, you'll only have one select statement to get all the users and another one select statement to get the counts. Only two statements. But if you are going to not use the eager load, you'll have one select statement for all the users, and then one select statement for the count of each user. So kung 100, that's 1 plus 100, 101. Whereas kung mag-eager load ka, you'll only have two statements. Okay? Muna siya sa nice situations nga na. So you have to be very careful. Although it still works, it will still work. Yeah, fine. It is going to display that out there. But arita diri mapildi sa performance. Imagine if 100 ka buok, 100 ka buok na yung i-process, mas dugay gyud na siya magawas ang result. And you know, performance is a very important thing na karon, no? Kung dugay mo load na. And imagine um, na ay na kay 100 nga users. Let's say 50 of those users will open that page nga mo display sa user and count. Lima ka ba? O ikaw ra usa, imagine o ikaw ra usa, you'll have one statement para sa pagkuha sa user, sa mga users, and then for each user, you'll have one statement para magkuha sa count. So that means if you have 50 users, you'll have 51 statements para nimo ikaw usa. But if there are 5 of you, yaning open sa the same page, nga mo display sa table and the counts, that will be multiplied by 5. 51 times 5. That's the number of statements that will be executed. You get the point? Pero kung mag-eager load ka, duha ra ka statement. So kung 5 mo, mahimong napo. Kung napo mo, mahimong 20 ka statements ang ma-execute da sa imong database. So you see, that's optimization on your part. So you have to make sure that situations that require eager loading, mag-eager load ka. And situations nga dili mag-require og eager loading, dili ka mag-eager loading kay mas sayon raman sa code. But anyway, hapit na time. I hope nga nakasabot mo sa ako ang ipasabot bahin sa eager loading o sa lazy loading. By default, lazy loading na siya, but you can also do eager loading. Especially, as ang sa ilhanan ko mag-eager loading nga, kana bitang mag-for loop ka, nga kanang i-display mo na ay relationship ang imuhang table, you have to do eager loading for that. Anyway, later on, maybe we'll have some more examples for eager loading in an actual application. Okay, but for now, we don't have enough time. So, anhira lang tingin likot kutob. Okay? So, we'll no longer have any more room for additional questions. So, I think this is it for this session. Thank you so much for coming. And Ed, ikaw na bahala distribute sa recording ani. So, that's it for this session. Thank you so much again. And you may now execute live drill. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you,
Bye,
sir.
sir. Thank you, sir.
Bye, sir.